We are in Luke chapter 8 today, verses 26 through the end of chapter 8. And Mango's really feisty today. I apologize in advance. See? She is demonstrating probably what it was like, or maybe I'm demonstrating what it's like to be around a demoniac, a being possessed by demons, as Mango seems to be sometimes. Yeah, she's a puppy. She wants to be a part of whatever's going on. So, anyway, let's try this. I'm reading from the Message today. They sailed on to the country of the Gerasenes, directly opposite Galilee. She's trying to translate for our dog listeners. As he stepped out onto land, a madman from town met him. He was a victim of demons. Now, you should know that the Gerasenes, this is not a Galilean village. These are not Jewish folks. They're probably Gentile folks, which is significant that Jesus is expanding his ministry beyond Jewish folks. And that's the first time that that happens in the Gospel of Luke. So this man who is a victim of demons, he hadn't worn clothes for a long time, nor lived at home. He lived in the cemetery. When he saw Jesus, he screamed, fell before him, and bellowed, "What business do you have messing with me? You're Jesus, Son of the high God, but don't give me a hard time." Note, by the way, that demons recognize who Jesus is. The man said this because Jesus had started to order the unclean spirit out of him. Time after time, the demon threw the man into convulsions. He had been placed under constant guard and tied with chains and shackles, but crazed and driven wild by the demon, he would shatter the bonds. So this is a strong man that the neighborhood has had a hard time managing, right? He's convulsing, he's breaking chains. A lot of folks think that this is a story about severe mental illness, and how difficult that can be for caregivers to take care of folks like that, and that balance between care and also control, right? So Jesus asked, "What is your name?" "Mob. My name is Mob," he said. In most translations it says Legion. Because so many demons afflicted him, and they begged Jesus desperately not to order them to the bottomless pit. Legion is significant too, the Greek word, because it signifies a Roman army. So it's possible it's symbolic of a community afflicted by empire. A large herd of pigs was browsing and rooting on a nearby hill. They don't know what's coming. The demons begged Jesus to order them into the pigs. He gave the order. Okay, so here, Jesus is showing mercy on the demons. Or the demons say, "Toss us into the pigs." That's interesting. And Jesus says, okay. It was even worse for the pigs than for the man. Crazed, they stampeded over a cliff into the lake, and they drowned. This is a tough little line to take in. If you're an animal rights person, it doesn't seem really fair that Jesus killed a bunch of innocent pigs. In the Jewish tradition, they were unclean animals. However, it also did a number on the economic situation of whoever was looking after those pigs. And the pigs did nothing to deserve this fate. Some commentaries say that the reason the demons are thrown into the lake is that, or the abyss, is that was a place where people believed that God did not dwell. So sort of like getting the demons gone once and for all. But it's still not fair to the pigs. I don't know what to do with that. But so those tending the pigs, scared to death, bolted and told their story in town and country, which I'm sure everyone would. I mean, if I saw a bunch of crazed pigs fly off a cliff, I would be terrified also. People went out to see what happened. They came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had been sent. sitting there at the feet of Jesus, wearing decent clothes and making sense. It was a holy moment, and for a short time, they were more reverent than curious. Then those who had seen it happen told how the demoniac had been saved. Later, a great many people from the Gerasene countryside got together and asked Jesus to leave. Too much change, too fast, and they were scared. Now that's a commentary in the Message. That's not actually in the original text, but it certainly is how I've read this text before. Too much change, too fast. Right? Even though it was a better situation for the whole town, even though it was a better situation for the man who had previously been afflicted by these demons, by illness, by suffering, and living out in the cemetery naked and in chains. Right? This is a much better situation, but that kind of change all at once is still painful and difficult because change is hard for us. And it's a commentary on how human beings operate, right? Even when things are absolutely terrible and get better, we protest because we are so change averse as human beings. All right, let's continue. Later, a great many people from the Gerasene countryside got together and asked Jesus to leave. Too much change, too fast, and they were scared. So Jesus got back in the boat and set off. The man whom he had delivered from the demons asked to go with him. But Jesus sent him back, saying, "Go home and tell everything God did in you." So he went back and preached all over town everything Jesus had done in him. Now, there was a point made in Bible study that oftentimes Jesus says, "Don't tell anybody what just happened." He tells this man to go and tell everyone. And we were thinking it would be a really great research paper for, if you want to take this on, for someone to look at all the situations where Jesus tells someone, yes, go tell the world about what happened, versus all the times Jesus says, don't tell a soul, and see what the common thread is. Because it seems to be a little bit random. It's possible that my hunch is that the stories where Jesus says don't tell anyone, Luke is borrowing from the Gospel of Mark. And Mark often, that's kind of something that happens in Mark all the time, where Jesus says don't tell anyone. But maybe Luke is saying, go ahead and tell. I don't know. Ways for you to dive deeper and explore on your own. So after this incident, right, Jesus gets on the boat, takes off for another area, and on his return, Jesus was welcomed by a crowd. So we assume he's back in Galilee now. They were all there expecting him. A man came up, Jairus by name. He was president of the meeting place. Very important guy. He fell at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his home because his 12-year-old daughter, his only child, was dying. Jesus went with him, making his way through the pushing, jostling crowd. In the crowd that day there was a woman for who 12 years had been afflicted with hemorrhages. Now, isn't that interesting? 12 years she's been afflicted, and the child is 12 years old too. That's an interesting connection I hadn't made till just now. And she'd been suffering from hemorrhages. If you're bleeding, you're ritually unclean in the culture that Jesus grew up with. So it wasn't that it was life-threatening. Obviously, she'd lived with this for 12 years, but it meant that she was outside of the community for 12 years. She was living in exile, basically. So she'd spent every penny she had on doctors, but not one had been able to help her. She slipped in from behind and touched the edge of Jesus' robe. At that very moment, her hemorrhaging stopped. Jesus said, "Who touched me?" When no one stepped forward, Peter said, "But Master, we've got crowds of people on our hands. Dozens have touched you." Jesus insisted, "Someone touched me and I felt power discharged from me." When the woman realized she couldn't remain hidden, she knelt trembling before him. In front of all the people, she blurted out her story, why she touched him, and how at the same moment she was healed. Now, this is significant because a woman who is unclean like that would not be able to, first of all, shouldn't be touching men as a woman in that time. That was problematic. But second of all, if you're unclean and then you touch someone else, they become unclean as well. So, for Jesus to say, what he's about to say. He said, "Daughter, you took a risk trusting me, and now you're healed and whole. Live well, live blessed." That is a radical departure from what she would have heard from other people who she tried to reach out to. She would have been rejected over and over again because of her ritual uncleanliness. And so this is a huge symbolic action that Luke calls out, that Jesus is saying, just because you're ritually unclean doesn't mean you can't participate in this ministry and in the kingdom of God. So while Jesus was still talking, someone from the leader's house came up and told him, "Your daughter died. No need now to bother the teacher." Jesus overheard, so this Jairus, we're back to Jairus again. Jesus overheard and said, "Don't be upset, just trust me, everything will be fine." Going into the house, he wouldn't let anyone enter with him except Peter, John, James, and the child's parents. Also interesting that he limits what's going on. Everyone was crying and carrying on over her. Jesus said, "Don't cry, she didn't die, she's sleeping." And they laughed at him because they knew she was dead. Then Jesus, gripping her hand, called, "My dear child, get up." She was up in an instant, up and breathing again. He told them to give her something to eat. Because, she's 12. She's a teenager. What's the first thing you're going to want? Is food. Her parents were ecstatic, but Jesus warned them to keep quiet. Don't tell a soul what happened in this room. So it's a big contrast, right? You have the guy with the demons, and Jesus says, don't, go tell everybody. And then there's a sort of quiet, secret little enclave, although everyone is going to see that the daughter they thought was dead is now alive. I mean, good luck keeping that a secret. But it is interesting, the contrast. A lot there, a lot to contemplate, and it leads into some stories about calling the disciples to do the same, which is exciting, right? Jesus trains them to heal people and cast out demons. And then there will be the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000, which we will talk about on Sunday, Communion Sunday. Thanks for reading the Bible with me again. This is always fun. If you have additional questions or want to dive deeper, then don't hesitate to give me a call. You have my phone number in the directory, or call the church office. I love talking about the Bible. It's a lot of fun, so don't hesitate. And thanks to those of you who have reached out with questions. It's been a lot of fun discussing the scripture with you, and I've learned a lot from you, and you've asked some fantastic questions, so thanks for that. I will see you on Sunday. Take care. Bye.